Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Distance Discussions. I am here with Erin Selkow, who is the Deputy Director at the Union for Reform Judaism of camps, Nifty, and Immersives, and previously the Executive Director at Camp Harlem, where he is live now. So welcome, Erin. Thanks for being here. So this week, the URJ's 15 summer camps and Nifty and Israel and Mitzvah Corps programs announced that they would not be running this summer as a result of the pandemic. And you have been involved in this process and helping make this decision. And really, you moved into this new role right as the pandemic kind of unfolded. So what have the past few months been like to be in the middle of all of this for all of these camps and programs?
Super weird. Really surreal. It started, my first day of work was supposed to be the first day of, a month-long slow transition. And all of a sudden I went to one meeting and it was clear that something was afoot. And it's actually been surreal because I've never experienced something like managing this kind of crisis. And also, it's been very hard, and at times now in the last 48 hours, really quite sad. The other thing though is it's been like camp. That's what I've told people when I've told them about how my schedule has been the last 7 weeks. I don't know, feels weirdly coincidental that it's basically the same as a summer at camp, and it's like that. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's that pace. You can't believe that your adrenaline can sort of keep you moving, like that all the time. So I would say those are if I didn't say, I said weird, I said hard, sad, camp. And actually I would also say I've had, in the last couple of days, actually a moment or two of feeling kind of proud. So, but that's only in the end. And now I'm back to feeling sad again.
Yeah, well, I know, I've been in awe of the care and thoughtfulness of the leadership of the camps and of the URJ that's gone into this decision. And so what was it that ultimately led you guys to be able to make the decision at this time before I would say most Jewish camps still have not yet made a decision?
Yeah. At some point, pretty early in the process of the last 7 weeks, sort of realized that we were spending a lot of time trying to figure stuff out. Like we were trying to project what it would look like, in June, July, August for our camps to run. And we were doing it with an incredibly limited amount of information, so there was a pause. We're just like, we can't figure out all the operational adjustments, protocols, because we don't know anything. We just know that things are going to probably be different. And it forced us, and this I feel like has been really helpful for me to think of it through this lens, to stop thinking about primarily whether we could run our camps as a whole individually, and started thinking about should we run our camps. And I think that it didn't make the decision for us, right? We still had to really look at this and do a lot of work. I mean, incredible amount of work, but that became, I think, much more helpful, right? Because we're really thinking about our values and the mission of the organization and the sacred trust that we have, with our communities, our parents, but with, most importantly, the children that we take care of. And ultimately, in the end, we asked that should question, and the answer was obviously no, we shouldn't.
What would you say was the hardest part of this process or the decision?
Well, you know me pretty well. I'm not a big fan of hurting people, and I mean, there was this sort of disassociative thing where, like, and I guess because I wasn't running a camp anymore, like even the one that I'm sitting at right now, it was easier for me to, separate myself from what I would feel if I was a camp director. And I mean, I can say much more about all the heavy lifting that was done by the camp directors, because their job in this is way harder than mine. But for me, the feeling of not wanting to let people down, not wanting to let down the kids that are trapped in their homes, for whom, camp is for those that are campers. I mean, it's the only thing they're looking forward to at this point. Not wanting to let down parents, like tens of thousands of adults that are also feeling trapped and just want to give their kids something, hopeful. Um, and actually, I'd say the not hurting. I mean, working with the 15 camp directors, they're incredible. You know them. I mean, they're just an extraordinary group, and I wanted to help them help us make the decision. I didn't want to tell them what to do. I didn't want the URJ to tell them what to do. So I was just there as an advocate, really, for them, and to do the work that they couldn't do. So I didn't want to let them down. I mean, I didn't want to hurt them. So I think that was hard. But I compartmentalize as well as just about anybody out there. So I sort of put that aside. And then I guess it really is like trying to learn about something when you can't, when nobody knows, right? Like, I'm a voracious learner. So in the beginning, I was like, I've got this. I'm going to learn all about viruses, and I'm going to learn about, the kinds of adjustments that can be made. And, I remember when I learned what social distancing was, which I had never heard of before, right? So I'm starting to feel in the beginning like, oh, I'm going to figure this out. And then I realized, yeah, I'm not going to figure out anything that's really that helpful. Um, so the feeling of not being able to get to the answer, and that ultimately we were going to have to make a decision. I didn't know in the beginning that we would be first. I mean, nobody really wants to be first in cases like this. But ultimately, the decision of the URJ, to be ostensibly first, certainly, putting our mark on this, in not only in Jewish camping, but across the entire field of camps. Um, that's where I feel a little bit of a sense of pride, knowing that others are going to continue to follow a pathway towards the summer. And if I can help anyone open a camp this summer, I'm willing to put my energy there, because if it's right for them, then they should. But for us to know that it just was not for us, ultimately making the recommendation was about the easiest thing, because we had done all the work. But yeah, the letting people down just stinks. And I heard the outpouring of support that our camps have gotten is amazing, and certainly some folks who are super upset, understandably, and even angry. I'm not getting most of that at all. I'm really just getting from colleagues and friends and family, and some old Harlem families that I still, hear from. Um, and that even though they're being so nice and they're saying such positive things about how much they appreciate the decision and the thoughtfulness and the care, I just feel terrible. Like, and I'm feeling it now as I'm sitting here. Like, they're not going to be here. I'm almost feeling like I'm rubbing salt in the wounds. Like, this is all that they want. They just want to be here, or, in Bruceville, Texas, or in Oconomowoc, or wherever. And they want to just have their best part of their year. And, it's like they already lost like so much stuff. This one hurts.
So you talked a little bit about being a voracious learner, and you've been a camp professional pretty much your whole career, and you also, maybe more than anyone I know, read a ton of books about leadership and management. So what for you were kind of the things you fell back on, or the guiding principles from your experience and all the things you've learned that guided you in this process?
The number one thing, which you will be like, yep. I mean, we could play the newlywed game here, and you would know. I just went into coach mode. That was it. I just leaned into that. Just kept using that. Um, because I couldn't do the work by myself, hardly. So I just needed to take advantage of all of the resources, the talent that was around us, um, throughout the organization, for sure. There are others besides our directors and the staff that work in our camps that are talented, but more than anyone else, that was really where we leaned. It was, looking around and seeing the associate and assistant directors of our camps, and the folks who are working in finance and development, and in operations, and and marketing communications, and of course their directors, and just trying to figure out how we could take advantage of the unique and really exceptional talent that they have to come to some informed recommendations. And to do that in the middle of a crisis, um, I mean, I don't really know that much, as you know. I mean, now we're letting the secret out on this little chat, but I mean, I do know how to support people. I'm not always great at it, but I get the basics of it. And so I pretty much for the last 7 weeks have just tried to figure out how to bring the best out of folks and give them whatever it is that they think that they need. Um, so I think that was one piece, and the other one, which is not because I read it, but it's because of what you said, that like you said pretty much my whole career, and it is my whole career, right? I mean, I had that brief stint at Lee's Hokie House in Ardmore, um, which was important. But other than that, my pretty much every job I've had is camp, and if it's not running a camp, it's supporting people that run camps. And I think actually, again, this has been camp, and in a sense, not being an expert in pretty much anything was helpful. Knowing a little bit about a lot of things, just enough information about a lot of things. Um, I've been learning about, risk management more than I knew before, and the legal implications of thinking about opening camps, the insurance industry, which is sort of part of that risk management stuff. Um, and I sure have learned a lot about medicine. Like, I don't really know very much, but I had to like learn a little to be able to help myself, if not others, and we had great counsel. So I think that the my willingness to accept that at my very best, I will not really know the most. And at my best, I can know just enough to get by and figure out how to take advantage of what everybody else knows. So, right, that's again, that's the secret we're letting out, that I essentially for the last 7 weeks didn't really do anything. I just I just channeled the all the good ideas. And I'll tell you, and this a minute before we connected today, I got an email from a camp director, one of our camp directors, who said they had a great idea, um, and it's like a game changer. I think they said. I think they said it's a game changer. This is a big teaser I'm putting out there into the world, and I don't know what the idea is. They wanted to just tease, a little bit, and they needed more time to write it up. And I after I read it, I thought, yeah, exactly. They're going to figure it out, right? So if it's not what we thought it was going to be, which obviously it's not, so then the directors they'll figure out what it is, and whatever it is will be the best possible thing that we can offer to kids and families and staff. So you know, yeah, they're just they're already figuring out the next thing. I mean, they've been thinking about that, I'm sure around the clock. So that's been really amazing.
Well, I think one of the things I most appreciated in my 5 years working at camp was just that there was always something new to learn, like you just said.
Mm.
Like, and there was always a new challenge that, you know, perplexed me. And certainly this is probably one of the biggest for a lot of camp professionals. But I think out of this comes a lot of innovation and new ideas and interesting ways forward. So one of the things that I think I've heard in response to the decision and in conversations with other camp professionals is that was this decision premature? And that there are like CDC and American Camp Association guidelines coming out, and what about the second half of the summer in July or August? What is your response to that, or what makes you confident that it's not a premature decision?
Um, you know, it's yes, that's the $64,000 question, I think, and I think that's where our camp directors are probably feeling the most pressure right now. Um, and the reason that that's the thing they're feeling the most pressure about, I think, is because people are not questioning the value decision. That um, people that are familiar with our camps and our movement, the reform movement, and the URJ, I think that they feel like this decision just makes sense. It is on mission. So that then begs the question, why not later? But I think in a sense that kind of answers itself. If you know this is the right decision, if you know that we can tell now that COVID-19 is going to be in camps. I don't know that. That's not me, but that's what the experts have already told us, and they're telling every camp that across the country. If if you know that COVID's going to be there, and you know that you're going to have to make certain adjustments, and you can break them all down, like you know what they are, all of those different operational areas. And if you're asking that should question, should we open, and your answer is no now, it's not going to change. Um, now that being said, I said before, and I'll say again, I mean, my network within this field extends well beyond the URJ camps, and I am constantly talking still this morning, last night to my colleagues, and in private camps, nonprofit camps. I mean, it's going to be possible. I mean, I'm a big optimist, so I think it's going to be possible for folks to find a way. It's going to look different, right? It's going to be later in the summer. There's going to be all sorts of accommodations made around, who we welcome into camp. And we're going to be making adjustments to operational, protocols and policies. And I think that, waiting longer gives you that chance. But the kinds of conditions that you're going to be running a camp under are going to be different. And I don't know what they're going to be yet. Nobody really knows for sure. And as I hear about the things that my colleagues are considering, and if we watch this video in a few weeks or 6 weeks for sure, we'll know whether this is true or not. And, I'm not one that likes to make lots of promises. I'm not a bettor either. But I don't think a lot of camps are going to be running robust programs. I think that they're going to do what they think is right, which I respect and support completely, to get kids to a camp and to get kids together. And I will not only, applaud them, but like I literally will move heaven and earth to do anything I can for them in the next however many weeks. I'll show up for somebody and run a basketball activity at that camp, and I'll stay socially distanced and wear a mask if I have to. But I just don't think that the inability to serve the populations that we've built, including knowing that you're probably not going to be able to serve a vulnerable population, which means anyone at camp, at least at this point, it's possible they may not be able to have any underlying medical conditions or of certain types. And when you start looking at those sorts of things, it just feels like this was the right thing for us. So waiting another 6 weeks to read what the ACA folks come up with, which is going to be amazing work. I don't know. I'm going to be so interested to see it, but it doesn't change anything. It's a hard thing to say to families. I'm sure our directors are doing a great job of that. And we could be proven wrong. So we took another way to think about it. Actually, this may be helpful. My feelings about risk. So we took a big risk being first, and the risk was that we would be second guessed, and that is a big risk. That's our reputation. That means possibly losing a whole lot of money. We're right now going to start reaching out to folks, asking them to make donations, which, while we're a nonprofit that does that, this is not when we really want to do that. We would much rather just hang on to people's money and use it and run our programs. So the risk that we're running doing this when we're doing it is the risk of being wrong, of being questioned. The risk of running camp in our mind was to hurt people. If we continue down this path and we get people's hopes up, and as we get closer, we feel that pressure even more than we feel it now, that might cause us to do something that puts people at risk. And of course, camp is full of risk anyway. Like behind me is this new thing at Harlem. Like I can predict, again, I'm not a promiser. It's a safe bet. Someone will get hurt on that thing when it opens, whatever summer that is, because that's camp. I mean, it's just, this is what camp is about. It's about healthy risk taking. But knowing that a virus is going to be present, and knowing that it could have impact not only on the people in the facility, but on the families that we send children to back at home, and knowing that the communities that our camps are in, like your old stomping grounds here in Polk Township, you know what a massive health system exists here. The idea of having impact on people in a way that really could put their health at risk, their well-being at risk, just didn't feel right. So I think it's also that it's that risk tolerance. You know, we had it high for being wrong or challenged. I guess we don't think we're wrong, but we know that we're going to be challenged by being so early. But we have very low risk tolerance for doing harm. So I think that was a big part of certainly part of the recommendation that we made, and ultimately the URJ leadership made the decision. I don't envy them for having to make it. I just had to, give my 2 cents. But I think that that's what it really came down to in a sense.
So, what are the next steps to ensure that camps, summer programs can open and run in the summer of
Mhm.
2021?
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why I can't wait for the information to come out that we don't have yet. The CDC recommendations that we expect on overnight camps. I'm interested to see what the individual states across the country and in Canada are going to do. I want to see those the guide that the ACA has commissioned with a partnership from the YMCA's, because it's going to be filled with interesting information that gives consideration to some real possibilities for the summer. So I think the first phase is continuing to follow along with what's going on. I think that we need to stay really very aware. One of the things we said to our families, which I haven't mentioned yet, um, but we're open. We're our directors are staying on the case, and if things shift, we're going to pivot. I know we didn't want to set any false hope, for families, but we said to families that if things change, it'll be our top priority to get people together. So anyway, I think the start of it is to really stay current. We can't hibernate for the next however many months. The next thing is we by making the decision just a little bit earlier than others will, and since we made our decision, others have now followed us. Not everyone will, we know, but we're getting an earlier start on 2021. As you asked, that's got to be our focus, and it's really 2021 and beyond, right? Like we don't know how long the society is going to be dealing with this situation. There is no guarantee that 2021 will be a regular summer at camp. I am someone who looks at the worst possible scenarios as a baseline, and it's possible that we could run into some challenges. So we need to start planning now. And just like in the past when things have happened at camp, you go back to 2009, the summer of H1N1, swine '09, we like to call it. Camps made significant improvements to their health and safety and medical procedural policies and standards after that. There's no doubt camp will never be the same again after this, whether they run or they don't, no matter what. So I think we need to prepare for 2021 to be still a bit different, but we start doing the planning. And for the URJ, it's going to be a back to basics effort, because this organization is not only camps, and we're going through a very challenging time in our history, and it's going to come at some cost. Not running a camp summer it's our we're talking about, I don't know, $40+ million of revenue that we just lost, and we spent actually a good portion of it along the way as well. So there's going to be a lot of building back. Um, but yeah, starting, when our families were able to get the news on Thursday from their directors, the sort of the hidden good news of that, which not one family would think about, nor should they, is that 2021 summer started, like the prep started. We've never had the additional few months like that, 5 months really of time to be planning. So I would expect that in the summer of 2021, there are no camps in the world that will be better prepared and will offer a better experience possible than the URJ camps. So, that's maybe a bit of a silver lining.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I always laugh at is when I was working for camp and people would say like, is that really a year-round job? I don't think people, including, camp families, don't always understand all the things that go into making summer happen and all the, like you said, like the expenses that have already been incurred. So
Yeah.
I'll make sure, you said that we would be asking for donations, whether you're a Harlem family or, another camp that has closed for the summer. Your camp needs your support right now, and this is a tough
Mm.
time for a lot of people. But anyone watching, anything you can do for your camp is incredibly important and appreciated right now. Um, so you aren't working for just one camp right now, but what is your message, or what would you want camp families to know and hear right now?
Mm. Wow. Um, well, I would definitely want them to feel like we're here. Um, I think that that might be the number one thing, that even though that we're not going to be, preparing to see families in the coming months at camp as we usually would, um, we're right now trying to be supportive of families. Actually, one of the amazing things I've seen over these weeks is that over, I guess it's been about 5 weeks or so, our camps have run virtual programs. The number as of this week was over 500 of them, and that speaks to the relationship that exists between camps and families, and it's the relationship that exists between kids and alumni and staff and so on. In most years, you know, this is not the time right now when camp would be deeply engaged with families because we'd be deeply engaged in getting ready for camp. But this is the support that's needed right now. So I think that, I hope that our families feel, including the decision, which was heartbreaking and gut wrenching. Um, and now going forward, that they know that their camp staff and the camp community is with them through what is just a hard time. I mean, like camp is, it's, I, uh, I care a lot about camp. It has been my whole life. And I also recognize there are other things. And, I've really had quite a, bit of a reckoning, over these weeks because I'm working for camp all the time, but I'm stuck in my home. And we've had somebody sick, and we've had somebody trying to get back to China, and we've had all sorts of stuff. I mean, like, I'm not complaining. I feel grateful, but the world is upside down. So I think that our camps appreciate that they can't do everything right now for families, and the one thing that families would probably want from us, we can't give them. Um, but I hope that families know that camps will be there for them. And I also would say to a camp family to stay with us and to support us. Not even just about making donations. People that can afford to do that will do that. That's wonderful. People have been doing that for a long, long time with our camps. Um, but just to stay with us and just to be um, to be our partners in this, because we're really just only as good as our families and our kids that we take care of, and the staff that come and do really the most important work each summer. um yeah, stick with our camps, stick with camps. This field has never seen this in 135 years. Camps are going to close. It's happening. It's going to keep happening. um but if you believe that camp is a good thing, you know, just stay with it, because it really does needs people. It needs the help. And our URJ camps, I do think in particular, they have given service to lots of folks. We are more than just a transactional summer camp experience for kids, and we want to keep doing that. So yeah, I think that's what I would say. And I would also just recognize, like, I'm not saying it right now because I'm not a camp director, and it's so awkward and hard. um because I can't really help, I'm not, and the parents I'm talking to are already hearing from their camp directors, so they don't need to hear anything from me. So I'm just thankful that I don't actually have to be the one, because that pressure is hard. So I'm really feeling for my colleagues that, whether they're the URJ directors that are dealing with that weight of trying to move families forward and look forward to the future and be supportive, or it's the directors that are out there right now and are still trying to figure this out. I live with one of them, who might spend their summer at a different summer camp, and they're in there. They're trying to find a path, and um, it's hard. It's really hard. It's just weird. The whole thing is so weird. So yeah, yeah. In our house, uh, when you've got everybody in the house completely committed to camp, including the dog, which is really why we're here today at camp, because the dog said, that's it. You know, I need to be there. Um, we've come to grips with this already, because we've been around it so much for these, weeks. But, I know that for a lot of folks right now, they're still just in shock. And, they need some time also to just process what's going on, and take care of what they need to take care of, and console their kids who must be just mad. um and it's those feelings are real, and they've got to be able to work through those feelings. um and it's hard for parents to be able to do that. I don't envy the folks that are in their houses right now trying to coax their kids out of the room where they're chatting with their camp friends, still getting over the news they just got.
Yes, nor do.
And by the way, the alumni also, like you or others who are also, even though you're not going to camp, are like, wait, what just happened? And are feeling loss, and you haven't even been there, as a camper for a long time. And I know that's happening too. And I think it's a beautiful thing, actually. The person who I saw posted today on Facebook, um, they're a photograph of the Havara barn here at Camp Harlem, which you know well. Um, and the photograph caption was, from the Havara class of, or year of, I don't know, whatever it was. I don't know, it was probably in the 80s, I guess, to this year's group. And of course, this has been going on with schools, for weeks. Um, but I hadn't thought about it for camp. And here's an alum. Um, Shout out to Pam Sandinato, by the way, because I'm pretty sure that's who posted it, and not that it should come as a surprise. Um, but anyway, putting it out there that, like, we know that those kids that were planning on this being their Havara summer, their last summer as a camper at camp, and that they've just missed it. Knowing that there are alumni of this camp who haven't been here for a while in their place, get it, and want them to know that that they're there for them. I mean, I'm emotional just saying it right now. You
Yeah,
probably figured I was going to get choked up at some point anyway talking about
yeah,
it. So
for sure.
that one I could keep going. I'll be totally bawling. But you know, yeah, that's just, people are so upset, and that's good. It means they care about it so much, and they just need to work through that, and hopefully, that'll just be something they look back on later in life and say, like, wow, I built some resilience in 2020 because I got through that summer we didn't have camp.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I got chills a few times while you were talking. Um, I think whether you're a current camper or an alumni, like, you just know the impact that one summer can have, whether it's that last summer as a camper or your CIT summer. And so I think, at least, conversations in my group of camp friends, like, people feel devastated for the kids that are not going to have those experiences this
Yeah.
summer, and the staff that aren't going to have those
Oh
experiences.
yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
All right. So something that I've asked everyone I've interviewed is,
Mm.
what is something that's given you hope or inspired you, in recent weeks, or certainly this week, in light of this big decision?
Mm. Well, I mean, I'm a very hopeful, person. So, I wrote something a month ago or so, before I had any idea that this would happen, where we actually wouldn't be running. In fact, on my mind at the time when I wrote it, I was, it was right before the Passover holiday, and I was just like looking for like to share a rallying cry to say let our kids go, to their summer homes, let our people go to camp. And but the real feeling I was feeling at that point wasn't like scared. I was feeling grateful. I was just feeling grateful for, all the attention that people were giving to getting camps to open, and all of the hard work that people were putting in. So I feel grateful for so much, but on this, decision thing, and now the reality of there not being camps and in any way playing a role in that. Um, Somebody was not going to open the summer camp. It already had happened. Already camps. I don't know how many. Like, who knows how many had already decided that they were not going to operate. But there was this deadline, or target date, I should say, put out of May 1. And a lot of camps, in our community of nonprofit Jewish camps had sort of seen that as a sort of a rallying cry. Let's stay together, let's lock arms and sort of get there together, because we recognize that it's like dominoes. Once one camp says they're in or they're out, it's going to affect others. And I said earlier, like, nobody wants to be first, but I kind of like to be first. So that was sort of a lie. Um, I didn't want to be first on this because it meant being first, whether you're first or last. But if it means that you're not opening, that's just bad. And I didn't want to see that. But if you decide that you're not going to open, um, I'm very proud of the URJ's decision to just own it and just say, okay, and not even wait to May 1st and announce it on April 30th, the anniversary of my bar mitzvah, by the way. Um, so I think that I think I think that gives me some hope, for the URJ, for the movement. For the camps, I think to an extent, but the camps are going to go through a hard time. I mean, it's going to be really rough, but I think that there's hopefulness that an organization that could definitely have decided not to do this, really, the decision could have been different. Waiting, you know, um, whatever, lots of different iterations. And I'm hopeful if organizations are willing to do the really difficult things in the most difficult times to protect the people that they're meant to care for and care about. And if they make decisions that are based on principle, I mean, if you don't believe in that, what do you believe in? Like, that's it, And as somebody who's worked for different organizations, I'd like to think that every place that I've been would do that. And in this case, we did it. So that makes me feel hopeful. I also believe like everything's going to be okay. I have nothing to base that on. Like, but yeah, every day, like I'm like, oh no, it'll be fine. Another thing is happening with this mess. I'm like, but it'll be okay. Like we'll be all right. And when you get stuff thrown at you a lot, you can't control any of it. You can only control how you respond to it. So I do tend to take that approach. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm hopeful about.
Yeah. Well, as Ellie Tepper Schulman kept saying to me, the URJ were the Nachshones in
Yes.
making the decision. And, um,
Yeah.
it definitely wasn't easy. But, I think many people, myself included, think it was the right decision, and are grateful for your leadership and everyone involved in this tough decision and these tough weeks ahead, in light of it. So thank you so much.
Mm.
I know this wasn't an easy week, and so I think a lot of people will be grateful to hear from you and your perspective on everything that's happened, and wishing you and everyone else involved a lot of happiness and good health, and summer 2021.
Yeah, yeah, can't come soon enough.
Yes.
Can I just say before we end that actually another thing to add to the what to be hopeful for is that when you did this for the first time, however many weeks ago, you know that I reached out to you um, because I just thought it was awesome, um, and I'm hopeful about people like Alyssa Kress who decide, in the moment of people feeling disconnected and out of sorts and far apart from each other, that they can, again, they can do something. You could do nothing, but you know, giving people a chance to connect with you. I know, like lots of other people, I love you, and it's fun to catch up. The fact that we didn't talk about really the elephant in the room is that there is no sports right now, because what people might be misunderstanding by this chat here is that we talk about camp all the time since we've known each other, and actually we hardly ever talk about camp. We just pretty much talk about the Sixers and other sports, and that is a mess. So that is, I'm not hopeful about that. It's been just bad, flat out bad. But anyway, I'm so appreciative that you're doing this, and I'm glad that I got a chance to do it. And I'm glad that Lisa David said I was allowed to be here today to be able to do it from. And Larry Knappenberger also gave explicit permission for me to be here. Just wanted to be clear that that's on the record. So
Well,
anyway, thank you.
and
Yeah,
thanks
totally.
for reaching out and wanting to
Yeah,
do this. I think it's
yeah,
so important and great to connect. And
yeah.
like I said, happy and healthy,
Yeah.
forward.
See you in the 18058.
Yes, one day.
Later, Les.